Hi, this is Don Debelak. You've reached the introductory video on our series of videos for creating an introduction plan. This is really about setting your plan together so that you don't run out of steam halfway to success. Now, in the first video series, if you went through that on Before You Spend Big Money, you've learned a lot about your market, you've learned about your limitations, your resources, what are the good and bad parts of your invention, and things you're going to have to look at in order to succeed, especially if you're an underfinanced inventor. What this section is about is putting together a plan on how you can really get ahead and move your product forward. What are the key steps to doing it? One is just choosing a path to market. You have private label, licensing, joint ventures, sell the product yourself. Now, one of the features of our website is we have inventor stories on there. In the early 2000s, I was a writer for Entrepreneur magazine, and I wrote 77 inventor stories. This year I went back and reviewed what is the status of those inventors today, and I found about a third of the inventors have been phenomenally successful, have really ongoing companies and have had great success. Another third have had somewhat moderate success, and the last third haven't had quite as much success. But anyway, if you go into our website, you'll see a search box, and if you put up a term private label, licensing, some of the things that will come up will be inventor stories who pursue that path. Read those stories and get a little bit of flavor for how people sort of navigated the issues and the problems with their invention, the path they chose. You'll find that everybody took a slightly different wrinkle, sometimes a significantly different wrinkle, and you might get a lot of ideas there about how you could proceed. You also want to identify the contacts you have and the ones you need. I mean, primarily these contacts are in marketing or sales, funding, and manufacturing. You want to determine your patent strategy. You're going to develop a timetable with key partners and have major steps and checkpoints on the way. Put your goals in place, your introduction date, for instance, first year sales, 3 year sales, and emphasize marketing and testing in your plan. This particular slide really is giving you a table of contents for what's coming up later in this presentation. We're going to go into each one of these slides or points in its own individual slide. So, path to market private label. This is a choice that you might choose to make. A private label definition is that you make the product and it is sold under someone else's name. For example, if you go into Target and you see a product with the Target name on it, more than likely that's made by an individual company, and it could be an inventor who literally strikes a deal with Target that Target will be their exclusive sales point and they'll put the Target name on it. The big advantage for inventors is they can get really quick sales penetration. The other big advantage is that it really helps manufacturers fund your product. So if you have a product, you have a private label deal, so you more or less have guaranteed sales. The manufacturers are going to like that a great deal. They're going to be very interested working with you, and they're going to be willing to pick up a lot of the cost of your introduction. So maybe you don't make as much money, you lose some to the private label partner, you'll have to give away some share or some percentage of the profit to the manufacturer in return for his investment. But you could end up with maybe 15% profit, maybe 20% profit, and have very little risk. So private labeling is a very good deal for inventors for the most part. Your best candidates for private label are companies that have a larger product line where your product is something they're missing, or your product really helps the sales of the other products. So if you have a company and they've got like 3 or 4 products and they have a pretty much of a full line, well, your product, if it comes in and gets some more shelf space and more interest from their retailers and distributors, they're going to be very interested in a private label. Distributors, integrators, and an integrator is a company that kind of puts together a full package for a company such as if you have a kitchen installer, they're going to be buying from all different types of manufacturers, and they'd be considered an integrator because they integrate all the products together to make a final product. All of these companies are excellent private label partners. You might also decide to take a licensing approach. Licensing is a process where you get a royalty whenever your product is sold. So let's say that you license to company X and they sell $1 million in 2015 and your royalty rate is 5%, that would mean you've got $50,000 on their sales. So you're getting a royalty based upon their sales number and not based upon, their profit. Typically, licensing takes you totally out of the whole process of buying tooling, having cash flow, and all types of other expenses. Usually with licensing, you have an expense that you're going to need a prototype, you're going to need a patent, and you might need to have a little beachhead for sales where you take your product into the marketplace and show that it can really sell. But that's it. So you're taking yourself out of the major expenses and you have a chance to license your product and get an ongoing stream. Basically, the 5% doesn't sound like much, but most companies make no more than 10% profit margin. So a 5% royalty, you're still getting half the money, and that's really a good deal. Now, networking is a lot different in licensing, but you really need to do it. And networking here is networking where you go out and meet some of the salesmen or the marketing managers of the company and use them as an avenue to really get into the company. So instead of going in cold to product development or the company president, you're going in with one of their salespeople or one of their marketing people who are there as your advocate. And that's really the best way to get a license. One of the drawbacks to licensing, of course, is that you can't control the effort the manufacturer puts into your product. So if a company's licensing your product really to fill out their line, well, they might not put as much effort into your product as they do into the other products in the line. But nevertheless, usually it's still a much better deal for the inventor. Now, the joint ventures usually occur when you have the ability to make the product yourself or to market the product yourself. And so then, even if you're still using distributors or sales reps, so basically what you're doing is you're telling the company that they'll own a certain percentage of your company. It doesn't have to be 50%, but usually it's a pretty significant percent. But in return, they're picking up a lot of the cost of the product. They're really getting the marketing effort or the manufacturing effort in place, and it really takes a heavy burden off of you. The other reason really for doing a joint venture is now you have a partner who has a whole array of people who know a lot about getting the products to the market and can help you get that out. This is much more enticing to a manufacturer than a simple investment, because what he's basically doing is guaranteeing that he will be a part of this product. If they invest in the product, you still might take the product away from them for manufacturing or do something else different. This way they have more control, they get more involved, and they really are an asset to the company. So you own less, but your sales could be faster, and also, in many cases, a joint venture is the only way you can come up with enough money really to get the product off the ground. But always with a joint venture strategy, always talk about an exit strategy. So after 5 years or 3 years or set a time, how can you separate? How can you take your product back? What are the terms of being able to do that? Of course, you can also sell the product yourself. Now, especially in smaller products where there's not quite as much money and it's going to be more difficult to entice investors or a manufacturer or a joint venture partner, sometimes it is better to go out on your own. I mean, for instance, some of the products you might be able to get into for $30,000 or $40,000 and make the product in a beachhead and kind of move yourself up. Many of the inventors in the stories in the magazine, I'd say at least 20% went out and made it on their own. The others had some type of partnerships or they had private label or licensing, but many did make it on their own, and you can do it. Typically, the products that you do best on are products where maybe you have $2 to $5 million sales potential. You have a well-established beachhead. Like, for instance, if you can go on to QVC or you can sell through catalogs and you can, get started on sort of a shoestring and get out there, then often selling the product yourself is the best bet. But remember, if you're going to have sell it yourself, you really should get a business plan and a budget and forecast sales, revenue, and expenses to make sure that you're going to make money. Now, if you are going on your own, I can recommend more highly going to SCORE, which are retired executives who are willing to work and help inventors for no charge, or the small business development centers where they will also help you put together a business plan and also a financial package, so maybe you could get money and borrow money from a bank. Identifying contacts. Now, even experienced people in the marketplace always try to get all the contacts they can for a different industry. It's just the contacts or industry insiders, they know things that you just don't know, and they really can do things that really help you succeed. So you need contacts really in manufacturing, people to help you pick the right production process, find the right manufacturers, tell you if you're getting a good deal from the manufacturer. And often SCORE can do that for you, but otherwise, you know, talk to people at your church or any other associations or whatever you do, and you'll find people who know something about manufacturing everywhere. Retailers, so you need contacts with retailers, maybe store managers or clerks, so somebody who knows the ropes. Same with distributors, sales reps. Some of these people you want to have contacted are related companies. These are companies that are selling into your business, but they're not selling the same product you are, but similar products and similar price products. And often these guys are marketers or maybe even inventors or founders who are really taking their product out in the market, and usually they're more than happy to help a new person. You also have to have contacts. You hopefully are working on this all the time for people who might be able to invest in your company. Again, you really can meet these people a lot of times through the sales reps who often know who's invested in other companies. And people with related companies also have contacts or people who've invested who can also help you when the time comes you need some money. Now, determining your patent strategy, you have two choices. You can patent the product, or you can't patent the product, or you can get a provisional patent, or you can just get a design patent. Basically, if you're really getting into the marketplace, you need to have a patent. Licensing definitely requires a patent, because if you haven't patented the product, you really don't own the technology, and it's just easy for anyone to come in and take your product and make it on their own. Joint ventures, private label companies usually want to see you have a patent, have a strong patent. On your own, if you have an investor that's going to come into the company, they're going to want to have a patent. You don't need a patent, but partners, you'll find partners want every edge. One thing you should do is put in for a provisional patent. The provisional patents are only about $1,000 usually. You can do them on your own for $100, but One Stop Invention Shop will do them for about $1,000, and there's other people who will have a low cost too. So do the provisional. That gives you a year. You can tell people your patent's pending, and if you get going with the companies, you'll often find that the investors or the other partners might throw in and help you get the patent that they want. Sometimes, especially in licensing, people, the companies like to actually be involved in the patent process and they're going to be willing to spend $15,000, $20,000 to get a really ironclad patent that maybe you really can't afford to get. So now we're going to talk about timetables. Basically, the most important thing you're selling with an invention isn't really the product, it's yourself. People are going to look at you and they're going to decide if you're really able to carry it off, if you're a straight-up person, if you can really get things done, you're a professional, and you really know what you're doing, and you've got a lot of moxie to work around all the problems that might come up. So a timetable is important to show. So the first thing that you have when you're talking to partners is they want to see a prototype and they want to see market testing. Nobody's going to really throw in a lot of money until you have a prototype and worked out the bugs, and until you've gone to the market, maybe as a beachhead testing, maybe just as for durability testing, maybe you've just run some market survey groups or you've gotten feedback from distributors. But people want to see that you've done something, and you kind of have to have a timetable about when the prototype's going to be out, what kind of market testing you're going to do, and when you're going to do it. Expect revisions more. We all have a very optimistic viewpoint, but usually we run across a few things where we need to make changes to the product, or the market test tells us that, well, we've overlooked a couple of features that we really need to have. So basically what that means is you go back, you make a new product prototype, and you get back to your product testing. I like to always test three kind of samples of people: consumers, people in the market who aren't my contacts, and my contacts. Usually what you find is the consumers are pretty favorable, especially if they're friendly or family, then they're very favorable. But people in the market are not always going to be so friendly. They'll tell you what they don't like about it, and your contacts will really tell you what's wrong with your product and what you need to change. And they're the ones who can also tell you how to change it. People in the market will just tell you it doesn't have what it takes, but the people in your contacts might tell you that, but then they usually tell you how you can overcome that. You really need to test the product for durability, workability, and the market's needs. It's not unusual for this stage to take 3 to 6 months, so don't be alarmed if you go out and you make a prototype, and that could take you a couple months. You go out to run some tests and make some changes, and it can run. But so don't make your timetable too short. Nobody who's really knowledgeable is going to expect this process to be short. Most companies will take 6 months to a year to survive this phase. Now you want to have a timetable to your pre-marketing timetable. Again, you're selling yourself. You've got to show that you really know what you're doing. So you want to set reasonable expectations. You want to pick. Now, the key here is don't go crazy and list 100 activities. You really only need to list, and this goes for prototypes too, like 5 or 6 key events. Even 4 to 5 key events is plenty. So don't go and list all of these things that people can see, because you're not going to be able to execute all those small items, and it will make you look bad. So if you have a market testing on pre-market, then you have a trade show that you're going to make some agreements with key distributors or sales or rep groups. That's enough. Or that you're going to prepare brochures and launch a publicity campaign. Again, 4 to 6 items, but make them big items and key items, and keep on task for those. You also want to have here a little bit about investments. When do you need investments, and your target introduction date. You're also wanting to have some kind of agreement with your key contacts. Maybe they're an advisor. Maybe you put them on your board of directors. Usually your key contacts at this early stage won't want money, but you could give them some stock options. Make sure you test your timetables here for someone with experience. Someone maybe at SCORE, the SBDC, or if you're send it in to One Stop Invention Shop, we'll take a look at it for you too. But you need that experience so that you don't come out with a plan that really just defeats the whole purpose by making it look like you don't know what you're doing. Then you also have to have a timetable with manufacturing. Again, don't go crazy, maybe 4 to 6 items, final design, purchase tooling, purchase raw materials, and your pre-production date, your testing protocols, and your final production. Now, basically, all 3 of these things, the prototypes, the pre-marketing work, and the manufacturing, these are all interrelated. So you can't go to market or go to a trade show if you haven't purchased tooling, and the tooling hasn't come in where you could start making product. So what you have to do is make sure that all 3 of these groups synchronize, because they're all related, and you can't sell what you haven't made, and you don't want to make something before you're ready to sell it. So you want to kind of stagger your money in your plan so everything goes together. You're also going to need a timetable for funding. Now, you might not need this. This is especially true if you're going alone. You have to tie your milestones to receiving funding. You need estimates of funding needs. You need to go step by step, but get a commitment for funding if you meet your dates. So in other words, I'm interested in getting your funding for you, an investment. I'll sell you some of the shares of my company. and these are the steps I'm going to be taking before I need the money. Now, if I can complete these steps, are you going to be interested in helping funding? Usually, people will say no if they're not going to fund you, or they'll say maybe. They almost never say yes, but all you want is a maybe commitment that they're really willing and able to make an investment. And remember, for every 5 people who say they might fund you, you'll be lucky to get 1 or 2 to actually give you money. So be sure you have a list of quite a few people that you're working on and showing about your progress. Show investment from you. It's better for you to invest in the company and then take a salary than it is for you just not to work. So, in other words, if you're working on your idea and you're starting to make progress and you put a $20,000 investment and you just take it back like $3,000 a month for salary, that looks much better to the investors that you've made that commitment than it does if you just say you're working with no salary. Then you're going to end up with a combined timetable. Now, the timetable I've been talking about mostly is for if you're going to the market yourself. You still need a timetable, though, if you're going to license or if you're going to prototype, private label, you still need to have your steps in place that you're thinking about in advance. You don't want to, your timetables will be much simpler and you will have a lot less on them. But nevertheless, you just want to have a plan rather than just kind of staggering forward and kind of taking whatever comes at you. That's not going to look professional. It's not really going to help you sell yourself, and I don't think it's going to really work for you to be successful. Have that timetable, and don't get discouraged by the timetable, one step at a time. One of the reasons I like people to read those inventor stories on our website is they see that nobody there just waltzed through the process and got to making big money without a lot of work, a lot of obstacles overcome, and a lot of maneuvering and creativity in how to get things, past steps where they have had obstacles. You want to have definite goals. Don't just say you're working on your idea. Don't ever let yourself just have a couple months where you just don't do anything and then you come back and say, okay, I'm ready to get back involved in the invention. What happens is, once you start doing that, all of your inside contacts, all of the people who are professional and really looking for and to support you are going to lose total faith in you. They're not going to just say, oh, you decided to take 3 months off. Oh, that's fabulous. I hope you had a good time. Let's get back to work. No, they're not going to do that. They want someone they can count on who's going to keep working on it. So set your goals, your introduction date, your first year sales. And when you talk about the details of those sales, your number of reps, your stores, your customers, who your marketing agreements are going to be with, get all of those details that you're talking about achieving, and then talk about your 3-year sales goals and what kind of customer groups you're planning on having there, what kind of manufacturing for support you're having, how you're going to get your money, who's your investors going to be. Put down those details so people can see that you want your contacts to see you have goals, you want them to get involved and support you. If you don't do that, they're just going to desert you and you're going to be really stuck all on your own again after you did all this work to get people to help you. Now, all of these efforts you're doing during this time, and you're doing these times for your own plan, but you're doing them for all your partners also, and so you get the support you need from other people. Remember marketing and testing. This is what people want to hear. Inventors tend to get way too concerned about their product, the features, and just focus on the product. But that's not at all what other people are worried about. They're worried about whether the product will sell and whether they'll make money. And that has to do with the market. That has to do with your distribution channel. That has to do with partners that you've lined up to help you. And really the tests that you've run that shows you've gone out there and actually done things with consumers and distributors, and you're getting feedback from them. Always remember this. Selling yourself is just as important, and I even think it's more important than selling the products. So this is really why you're lining people up. Now, what's going to happen, this was sort of the introductory course. We also have very specific create your own introduction plan for private label, licensing, joint ventures, going alone. I have a special section on networking, how to meet people, how to get out there, and I have a special section on funding. Both of these are areas where people have a lot of problems with, and there's also a video on tracking your progress. These videos are available if you sign up to become one of our members for $9 a month, which is just a basic membership, or $20 per month members, who are free to send us questions by email, and also we'll have 2 sessions a year with them on a one-on-one consulting basis so they can get more support. But right now, I just get backing up. If you want to go ahead and just create your plan on your own, that's just fine. If you do take our videos, we welcome you to the video series, and we look forward to working you in the future. Thanks a lot for your time.